Speech Pitch by Iskasak.
Hi there, and welcome to Speech Pitch by Iskasak. I'm Paige, and today I have with me Xin Wang from the National Institute of Informatics in Japan. Welcome, and thank you for joining me.
Thanks for inviting me.
So today we're actually just after interspeech, and we're at the speech synthesis workshop. So we'll start first by, what do you work on? What do you hear? Did you have presentations at any of the things you've attended in the past week and a bit?
Yes, I graduated almost 10 years ago with my master's degree on speech synthesis. So I did HMM-based speech synthesis from 2012 to maybe 2015. So after that is a deep neural network era where I use the CUDA, C++ to implement all kinds of deep neural network-based speech synthesizers. Later on, I work on the neural coders, especially the neural source filter waveform model. From 2020, I switched the research topic to deepfake detection, just to detect whether the incoming voice is deepfake or not. Then I spanned my research topics, also start to work on the privacy issues, just to anonymize the voice identity in order to prevent it from being misused by the deepfake. Yes, that is my research background. For this reason, I attended almost all the workshop days at Interspeech. So the day before Interspeech is the symposium Speech Security and Privacy. Then Interspeech main conference, I did the presentation for our intern students working on the watermark, deepfake detection, and so on. Now after Interspeech is the Clarity Challenge workshop. I'm not working in that area, but I'm interested in how they incorporate the hearing models in order to do the enhancement for the people who need it. Then it's the speech synthesis workshop. I have been getting involved from very earlier stage of my career. Yeah, that is my journey for this interspeech trip.
Yeah, that's a lot. You're the only person I've talked to who's done more than me, because I also did the clarity and the speech synthesis. But I did do the speech festival before. So something. But yeah, it's a lot of days, but it's a lot of useful information. How do you find that interspeech differs from the workshops?
Definitely the workshop is more specific on the topic. You can meet almost all the experts in this field. It's usually the scale of the workshop is smaller than the interspeech. So that means within a small space, you can chat with almost all the experts in the field. I think that's the strong advantage compared with the main conference, where the people who you wanted to talk to might be dragged by someone else.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also was finding in the main conference, it's really hit and miss on your topic and what other topics are at the same time. Even though it's the main conference, you might end up having way more people listening to your talk at a workshop because everyone's doing the same thing and not being split among all the different things. So I think it's nice. And a lot of people maybe don't consider workshops, but they go in the same set of kind of proceedings, and still nice place.
Yeah, you mentioned one point. Yes, I agree with that. I think for the main conference, I could comment on two things. The first one is the arrangement of the sessions. Sometimes I think the TPC did a great job, but sometimes you have to make compromise and maybe allocate two sessions with the similar topic at the same time. Maybe one poster session, one oral session, then you can't be there at the same time. That is one, and say a disadvantage sometimes you face. Another one is because it's at main conference, people from different backgrounds might come to your, say, poster. Sometimes you are not really discussing with the experts on that field, but you need to do some kind of small tutorial in order to preach your knowledge and just communicate with the beginners or students what you are doing. But at the workshop, it's maybe somehow you have more chances to really directly talk with the experts there. You have the common background. You can directly dive into the topic you want to discuss and receive feedback. I think this is another difference I personally feel.
Yeah, me as well. I know when I prepped my presentation for this workshop versus for interspeech, I also don't feel like I have to give as much background on certain things because I can assume there's certain knowledge, and then I pay attention to the more important things specific to the work, and it can be quite nice. And also for SSW, at least, the paper was longer, which is also nice over the 4 pages. But yeah,
Indeed.
it's interesting. And something else I was wondering, because it came up and you said you've been coming to SSW for a while. We had the talk yesterday about what's happening in speech synthesis and how it's being, taken away from ISCA events. And what do you think about that? Have you been seeing that happen a bit?
Oh yes, it's a very interesting trend from my point of view. I did my first SSW in 2016 in US. At that time, the HMM-based speech synthesis is still not mainstream, but a big portion of the speech synthesis methodology, also unit selection. So another time, you can see most of the people are citing the HMM-based speech synthesis papers or unit selection papers by Ala Black. There are a few papers starting working on the deep neural networks. At that stage, if my memory is correct, I think most of papers are on the methodology side on how to build the acoustic models and so on to improve the quality of the speech synthesis. Of course, there are other topics like adapting the models to low resource languages, different speakers. Compared with this SSW, I think the evaluation part is not that huge portion. So if you come to this speech synthesis workshop, you will notice many papers working on the evaluation side. In contrast, the methodology side, building the neural network, acoustic models, vocoders, and so on, seems to be less than previous speech synthesis workshops. I think this is some kind of change, not change, but differences from the previous speech synthesis workshops. So one reason could be for the acoustic model, the vocoding, the front end using deep neural networks, I think many papers are adopting the fancy DN-based approaches. So they prefer maybe publishing the papers at machine learning conferences. In contrast, people working on evaluation side, they have to have the linguistic knowledges, language-dependent knowledges. They come to this SSW. That is my personal observation from my experiments.
Yeah, and I get the impression that these evaluations are super important for these TTS systems, but that it's not very accepted by the broader machine learning community. So it's not easy for even these people to go there. And so it's kind of a loss for them that they're not getting this kind of information.
Yeah, agree. That's another related personal feeling. I was at a machine learning conference in April this year. There are a few papers working on speech synthesis. For example, one paper working on the prosody modeling and so on. But if you really ask the author, what is the aspect of prosody you're talking about, whether you're talking about the pitch accent, well, for that pitch accent language, or the phrase intonation or rhythm or other kinds of aspects of prosody, I think the author is not quite clear about the prosody he is talking about. So I think this really, because the speech synthesis is a multidisciplinary subject, so it's really challenging to have all kinds of knowledges, both machine learning, linguistics, other kinds of knowledge. So it's very challenging to know all things you wanted to talk about in the paper. But I think this is a strong point compared with the people purely working on the machine learning technologies. So people from the SSW, they have more some kind of training on the language side. They know what they are talking about. Sometimes I think maybe people from the SSW can go to this kind of machine learning conference and just let the machine learning researchers know, okay, there are more topics than what you can do with the deep neural networks.
Yeah.
Yes, that's my personal feeling at conferences.
Yeah. I think that's really important. I think maybe also when I started my PhD 5 or so years ago, I was like, oh, I'm in a very vision school. And I was like, oh, I'm so glad I'm not in vision. It's like moving so fast. It's crazy. Speech is slower. You have to have all this background knowledge. But now that these people in machine learning have just grabbed speech, it's also moving so fast. And I think that it's something that it's taken off, and it's because vision was kind of reaching the end of it so good. They're like, what else can we grab and just go with? And yeah, maybe it's time to show them to slow down and think a little bit more about the language behind it. But that's really interesting. But thank you so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you so much. It was really great to talk to you and hearing similar thoughts that I have about how speech synthesis is going. And it's good hoping some people listening to this podcast can hear as well, since it's been a big discussion piece here. But thanks everyone for tuning into this bonus episode. We might be interviewing your favorite speech researchers in the future, so be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to your podcasts. You can also follow the ISCASAC on X and LinkedIn to stay updated. Until next time, have fun.
Speech pitch by ISCASAC.